The Bank Robber Donkey. "I need a victory sandwich, please," requested the middle-aged man at the window of the food truck. "How about a My Hero Hero?" suggested Big Eddie, the voice on the other side of the window. "Perfect," he said, as Eddie threw some pastrami on the griddle and said, "Sounds like somebody's having a good day," secretly wishing it could have been him. "Couldn't be better," his customer kind of crowed. "Just a fantastic day," he offered, intentionally inviting any questions as to details. So the cook obliged him with, "What exactly makes it fantastic?" which is nowhere near where Big Eddie's day had landed. His customer looked at him and asked, "Have you ever done something that you really regretted? Something that hurts every time you think about it?" Maybe once or twice," said Eddie in kind of a quiet tone. So the customer told him that he'd just been set free from some heaviness that he'd been carrying for years. "Just this morning, a friend and I were talking about forgiveness. He was saying that when God forgives, he forgets it ever happened." I told him I didn't believe a word of that. See, over 20 years ago, I stole something from where I worked. I felt stupid, defeated, and super guilty. I didn't know why I did it. I didn't even need what I stole. I just picked it up and carried it out to my car. My boss saw me take it and called me into his office. I offered a clumsy apology, but of course I got immediately fired. I was so humiliated. I asked God to forgive me so many times, but a crippling guilt still hit me every time I remembered. When I told my friend this story, I asked him how he could believe that God even forgives, let alone forgets. But my friend said something very strange. "You made the same mistake I did," he said, and then he volunteered a story. One day, a donkey walked into a bank with a bag on his back and a note in his mouth. He laid the note on the counter at the teller's window. "Put all the money into this bag, or that raccoon across the street will trigger a bomb and blow this building to bits," the note read. The tellers quickly pulled the cash from their drawers and pushed it all into the bag, and the donkey left. After several clever evasive moves, the donkey met up with his partners for the split. But as the cash spilled out of the bag, a die pack went off, and the die splashed the donkey all under his chin, giving the appearance of kind of a bright blue beard. He couldn't even see where it had sprayed him because it was all under his big snout, but his partners told him he'd better get scrubbed soon, or everybody'd know that he was in on that robbery. They put his share back in his back bag, and they all split up. For days the donkey slinked in the shadows, seeking a scrub shop that could take away the stain. But everyone that he tried all finally admitted they just couldn't get that stain off. Well, the donkey was so depressed, he'd never be able to show his face in this town again. He collapsed into a wailing pile of regret and cried out to God to forgive him for that stupid mistake. He left under the cover of darkness and tried to start a new life somewhere as a night watch donkey who always wore his back bag and a blue kerchief around his neck. One morning, after an extra long shift, he wandered into a public stable for a bag of oats and a bed. He sidled up to the bar next to a proper-looking llama with perfect posture and wire-rimmed glasses. "You look like you've had a hard night, my friend," he said with disarming kindness. You have no idea, the donkey exhaled without looking up. The fermented oats didn't lighten his heart, but they did start to loosen his lips a bit as their conversation began to include some of the details of his disposure. I'm just saying, he wrapped up his sad tale, if a friend ever asks you to walk into a bank and put a note on the counter, just spit in his eye and move on. Or you could end up like this. He pulled the kerchief down to reveal the stain. Wow, the llama reacted. I've never seen such a not blue neck before. What? Cried the donkey. Of course it's blue. None of the scrubbers could get it off. Did you do anything other than scrubbing? Asked his new friend. Well, I did ask God to forgive me, but I still feel so guilty that I know that didn't work. Not a trace of blue anywhere, the llama proclaimed again, as the donkey kind of collapsed with his head between his front feet, trying to figure all this out. What if God did forgive you when you asked, ventured his bifocaled friend. Then why do I still feel so guilty, moaned the droop-eaten donkey. Well, the stain seems to be gone, so maybe you're feeling shame and not guilt. Maybe God took away the guilt, but only you can release yourself from the shame, remarked the llama, who was clearly on a roll. Maybe you just need to believe that that stain is gone, which it really is, by the way. But the heaviness, it's so real, complained the donkey as he rolled over onto his side. What's that on your back? Asked his friend. More proof of guilt, admitted the donkey. My share of the heist. What did you rob again? A magazine stand? The llama asked. A bank. There's over $50,000 in there. Well, mused the pachyderm as he rummaged through the bag, all I see here are old newspapers. The donkey was stunned to find out that his partners had totally stiffed him. His mind was spinning with how many ways this had gone wrong. In the meantime, the llama did a little victory dance. What are you dancing about? Curmudgeoned the donkey. Don't you see? That bag was the reminder of how guilty you should feel. But it was a lie all along. Now let me help you off with that bag and get yourself up and act like you look. Totally free, the llama sang and celebrated with kind of a four-legged jig. Then the man at the food truck looked at Big Eddie and confessed, I was the donkey in that story. And so are you, my friend. You might be beating yourself up over something God would forget about as soon as you give it to him. So how about I help you off with that bag? Well, after all was said and done, Big Eddie felt so light he could almost fly, and the next customer who came up to his window looking the least bit down got asked straight up, have you ever heard the one about the bank robber donkey?